Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be some kind of a masked superhero. You know, the cool kind that saved the day, that in the most opportune time when all hope is lost. This stupid virus has proven me wrong. I mean, it's a very, very important thing that we should all wear masks, but when I wear a mask and I go out, and because it's kind of chilly now, I don't see anything. Anyway, let me tell you a cool story. So you see, here's the situation. I decided to go out for a walk. It's kind of evening-ish, and turns out, because it is getting chillier here, and because the new temporary place that I'm in right now, we're kind of closer to some mountains. In definition, means that it's kind of cooler than the rest of the areas around town. And that means even if I do decide to go out for a walk, just like right now, I don't see a single thing after like 5 minutes of walking. We are probably in the worst possible phase in terms of the whole outbreak, but we're gonna get through this. Because you know why? Because the night is darkest just before the dawn. Okay, I'm gonna catch you in a less crowded place. Here's the problem. I originally had decided to go to a specific place that was supposed to be like secluded and not a lot of people or cars or anything passing by. I'll tell you a little story that's kind of important to me. But what happened is that I'm shooting this video on a Wednesday, and where I live, where I'm from, our weekends begin on Thursday, which means that today is the day before a weekend, which would ideally be okay. But the problem is apparently today, around like noon, the government and everybody had announced, or well, in this particular case, they have announced that we're going into another 2 weeks of lockdown because of you know what. Which means the next Saturday, which usually is our week's first day, is now going to be the first day of a 2-week lockdown. And so people are going crazy, going out and buying stuff or finishing their jobs, stocking up on stuff, which kind of sucks, but at the same time probably it's necessary. Nothing is more important than health. So the story that I wanted to tell you is written by a very famous writer, author, a big dude. His name is William Sidney Porter, and because he went due to some complications, let's call it, he went to prison in Ohio. He went to Ohio Penitentiary. Inside that prison, he decided to adopt the nickname O. Henry. O. Henry. And this story is called The Last Leaf. And it revolves around a very sick, possibly terminally ill young girl who has been basically announced a goner by the doctors of her time. She has some weird diseases, pneumonia mixed with a bunch of other diseases, if I remember correctly. The disease itself isn't important, and she's unable to move, so she's basically obligated to stay in bed for the remainder of her life. And naturally, she has only a few things to look at. And her bed is located next to a window, and every day she looks outside and sees this big gigantic tree full of leaves, full of beautiful things, full of like life. And one day she tells one of her friends who happens to be visiting her that if the tree keeps losing its leaves, it is an indication that my life is also coming to its end. And the day that the last leaf of this tree falls, I will also leave this life. And her friend, who is very, very obviously touched and disturbed by this, starts looking for solutions to this. I guess you could call it a problem, but more like a philosophical conundrum. And she hears that her friend, the main person of the story, has a neighbor who apparently is a very, very good painter. And she tells him the story of her friend and how she had told her that when the last leaf of this tree falls, she will die, basically. I don't want to get into details of how the painter and the friend, starts conversing. I'm just giving you the very, very, very basic version of the story to get to a point. Just be patient with me for a second. What's happening? I don't know. Anyway, the painter, moved by this, decides to do something about this. And so one very, very cold night, after seeing how through fall and early winter, one by one, the tree is losing its leaves, he decides to climb the tree. So I made a mistake, and that is the fact that we understand the painter climbs the trees and does what he's going to do is the ending of the story. And I misremembered. Sorry for that. Back to the video. In the super cold weather, and decides to, I don't think I can film here, hold on. So he decides to climb the tree and paint leaves, or at least one leaf on that tree. And because he was such a good painter, he draws a magnificent picture of a leaf on the tree, right where she can look at that leaf when she gazes outside the window. And so the next day, the girl stares at the window and sees that the tree has still a few leaves left. So her hopes, I guess, remain untouched or unscathed. Can hopes be scathed? I don't know. The next morning, she sees that, okay, the tree is losing its leaves, but there's still one leaf left on the tree. She says, okay, this is cool. So days go by and winter starts reaching its end, and she keeps seeing that one leaf on the tree. And she thinks to herself, well, if this tree is resisting its nature of losing everything, maybe I should too. This acts as like a motivation to her, and she starts resisting as well. And a few days go by, winter goes by, spring arrives, and as spring goes on, the tree continues to, I guess, grow leaves on it. And the friend comes by and visits her and sees that she is actually recovering, like a miracle. And that's just awesome. So she decides to run downstairs and tell the painter about this, that he basically has performed a miracle. I am giving you the very, very short version of this story. He knocks on the door, nothing happens. She knocks again, nothing happens. And so she calls the police. They knock the door down and see that the painter has died of the pneumonia, basically kind of like the same disease that the girl had. And so basically he gives her life so that she can live. And that's the story of The Last Leaf. Now, what does this story, which is by this time narrated very poorly by me, have to do with this video? We're getting close to it. Just hold on a second. Now, how that story relates to right now and to this video is because this new place, this new temporary place that we moved in until the new house gets ready, actually does have a tree. And this tree had a crap ton of leaves on it, and we moved here around the spring of last year. And now it's almost winter and we're moving away from this place. And me being, I don't know, the artistic type in my soul, I couldn't help but really associate this tree with the tree in the story of The Last Leaf by O. Henry. It's actually a pretty good read. If I find a text version of it, I will link it in the description box below. It's not that long of a story, but it's kind of a good read. Anyway, that's the story of My Last Leaf, and I have some very exciting news for you. I will share with you very soon. Thank you so much for watching, if you're still watching by now, and I will see you very soon.